Cup of Joe special edition. Bo Porter is here as well. Thought we'd make it a little bit of a manager's roundtable. You guys could kick some ideas around. Joe, welcome back to the show. Good to have you here. Bo Porter's here too.
Thanks, BK. Great to see you, Bo. Great job, brother, too. I've been listening to you do an outstanding job.
He just doomed the Texas Rangers, but we'll get to that another time.
Good to see you, Joe.
All right.
They're dooming themselves.
That's true. All right. Manager topics. Now, here's one question. Should teams that are out of it play differently against teams in the race? This is from Gary Cohen on SNY. They do an excellent broadcast there. And he relayed this quote from Buck Showalter saying, I asked Buck, and he had said the other day, you play differently against contenders and you owe it to the teams that you're battling with. And I said, what would you do differently? And he said, I'm playing Brett Beatty at third base against a left-hander today. So that's lefty versus lefty. That he might not do that in a situation against a contending team, but against a non-contender, you know, he would just do what's best for his club. Joe, do you agree with that? Do you play contending clubs differently if you're out of the race?
100%. I mean, when you're playing a team that's in contention, you definitely put your best available team out there on that day. When it comes down to your bullpen, you would probably work it more aggressively like you would in a playoff situation as though you're trying to make the playoffs yourself. So, yeah, I totally agree with that. That's trying to win that particular game, which we always do. However, development becomes more prominent in a situation like that. So I did the exact same thing. The way it was written was almost exactly the way I would have said it.
Interesting. Bo?
Yes, I totally agree. When I was managing the Houston Astros, obviously we were going through a complete rebuild. But every time when it came down the stretch and we were playing teams that were in it, I'm going to put my best team forward because out of respect to the other managers and the people that we go to battle with each and every day, it's the right thing to do.
Okay, interesting. All right, next topic. Anthony Rendon, former player of yours, Joe. He's played just 43 games this year, third straight year playing fewer than 60 games played. Obviously having issues with the media. Look at some of these interactions. This is from Sam Blum, who puts out, he was asked for an injury update. He asked Anthony Rendon, no habla inglés. He says he put on a hoodie and left the clubhouse. Let me see. He asked how his wrist was. I have two. Held him up and walked out. Another time he asked him, hey, how are you feeling? And Rendon said, I'm not here. Left the clubhouse. Another time he's in the clubhouse and he said he's on the dead list. He doesn't have to do interviews. Joe, you managed Anthony Rendon. What's going on?
Yeah, that's everything you just said is kind of unfortunate. Anthony is a very bright young man. Went to Rice University. I had great conversations with him. He's able to really, he presents the game well conversationally, presents life well conversationally. It is disappointing. I just think he's frustrated more than anything. He's the kind of guy that'll get tired of the same questions all the time, and I think he could diffuse it, obviously, more readily by just answering those questions. But to me, it's just an absolute indication of how frustrated he is. And again, I'm not defending him. It's not the right way to go about this. However, I don't want you just to think this is a bad person. I mean, my conversations with Anthony were always really good. He never got a chance to play with any kind of consistency there. And as a manager, you always want him in a lineup. He's like such a good baseball player. He hits well, hits for power.
But he hasn't played, Joe. Like, it's what's the media? You have to say, well, hey, Anthony, and Bo, weigh in on this, because you have to ask, because you've known Anthony a long time. You have to ask,
Joe,
hey, you're not playing.
I've actually known Anthony Rendon since he was 13 years old, so I've known him a long time. He's a Houston-based kid. Like you said, he went to Rice. He is a great human being. When you look at this situation, to me, I think frustration has definitely set in. And I'm going to go to the Angels leadership core. Right now, they need to save Anthony Rendon from Anthony Rendon.
I agree.
Someone needs to pull him into a room and sit him down and say, listen, it's very unfortunate where we're at with your contract, with the number of games in which you've missed. Do not add gasoline to this fire with these inflammatory comments that you're making day in and day out.
Right, for no reason.
There's a better way to go about answering these questions, even if you just give the media 2-3 minutes a day and just be transparent and say, listen, I'm really frustrated with the whole situation, and let them write that.
Yeah.
Can I interject one thing, too, even beyond the front office? That comes from representation, too.
Yes.
I mean, these guys are really controlled by their agents, and they're very protected by their agents. So, and listen, I have an agent myself, and Alan Nero's done a wonderful job for you, but that's where this needs to come from, beyond the front office. It should have been gotten on early on. It's very difficult after pretty much the horse is out of the barn to come back and try to deal with the situation differently. But I really think in a situation like this, representation has to tell the client the truth, and sometimes they hide the truth.
Yeah, Joe, I would say that there's so many PR people running around when you go to a major league club. Nobody can get him face to face and say, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're also not representing the club very well, and you make $38 million a year. Like, at some point, you need to put it down and say, you're not helping the club at all here, let alone let's make it easier for you. I don't know how all this PR people everywhere.
Tell him the truth, and he might hate you for a week or 10 days. Lie to him, and he's going to hate you forever. Just tell him the truth. You need to do this, Anthony. This is a part of being a Major League Baseball player. You're smart enough to know that.
Right.
And I'm beyond the front office. And, of course, culpabilities there also. But I still believe representation should step in and really tell him, his agents, listen, Anthony, we can't do this.
Right. All right, I blame the club, you blame the agent. That tells you a little bit more. All right, Terry Francona has implied that he'll retire at the end of the season, guys. Here's part of his quote saying, basically, it's time. My body is telling me that. My head is telling me that. And he goes on to say, it looks like it might be over. He's managed 23 years, but his body is beat up. Joe, you locked up with Terry in the 2016 World Series, famously, of course. What do you remember best going head-to-head with Terry Francona?
Heck, it was 2008 with the Rays in Boston. In that particular series, it was a wild card game in Cleveland. It was at 12 or whatever. Then eventually it comes down to the Game 7, which you know is that he's under control. He knows exactly what he wants to do in advance of the situation. You know that his team's going to be pretty much calm and go out there and play the game appropriately and actually like they had during the course of the season. So that's what I think of. When you're managing a particular team like that, I really want to know the personality of the manager, what he's willing to do, what he's willing to not do. Is he willing to take chances, or is he going to be playing this thing very conservatively? So those are the kind of things I like to know in advance, and these are mostly my interpretations of what I've seen prior to that particular moment. With Terry, again, you're going to get a calm presence. You're going to get a team that's going to fight back. They're not going to quit. And again, they're going to go out there and not going to be overwhelmed by this situation. And a lot has to do because every time they look in that corner of the dugout, that's what they see.
Terry Francona is a Hall of Fame manager because he has done a magnificent job of managing the rosters that he's been given. You can give him a team that's going to slug, and he's going to manage in that fashion. You can give him a team like the Guardians, like he had last year, that's going to lack power. He's going to hit and run. They're going to steal bases. They're going to go first to third. He is a constant confidence builder for every player that has ever played for him. He's a great leader of men.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when it comes to Hall of Fame time, he's over that line.
Yes, he's definitely
I agree with you there. All right, hey, Joe, time for a little managerial check. And I think we've had both of you as subject matter, as chess pieces on the board. Now you get to play the game from the other side. The key point, you can agree with the manager. This is not just to rip the skipper. But let's start with Dave Roberts of the Dodgers. He's in the firing line here. When should he have pulled Lance Lynn on Wednesday? It was scoreless through 4 with Lance Lynn. They're up 1-0 in the 5th. Third time through the order. Bo, get this. Double, homer, walk, fly out, homer, fly out. I'm not done. Homer, single, then he pulls him out. What's going on?
Well, when you think about the Dodgers, they're already in the playoffs. And when you think about them making this trade for Lance Lynn, yes, do you want him to go deep into the game? But I think this here has more to do with a psychological advantage for the manager as they move forward. Giving Lance Lynn this opportunity at this point of the season, basically from a managerial standpoint, it puts you in a position when you get into the postseason and you go get him early, you can look back at this particular game and say to him, this is why I made this decision down the road.
So it's cover for that when he comes to get him early.
Well, it's one, let's just say he's able to get out of it. And now it builds his confidence and your confidence as you head into October and start playing more meaningful games.
Hey, Joe, I kind of like where Bo's at there, saying like when he goes to get the ball after 4 innings, he goes, no, I can pitch. Like, oh yeah, do you remember back in early September? What happened, big guy? What do you think?
Well, I was just watching after the very first time. His stuff was down. I mean, 91, 92 at the velocity, and the pitches were down. Fastball-wise, the slider was hanging. For me, just watching from the side, it's just another game. I wanted to play every game the same from the time spring training occurred until the last game of the season, and that hopefully was the 7th game or less of the World Series. He didn't have a stop. So I don't know if the bullpen was not rested, had no bullpen, or like you're saying, for me, the attempt to build confidence in Lance Lynn. I have confidence in you that you could picture this, but from my eyeballs just watching that video, his stuff was down. And at that point, too, when you get that bad of a disadvantage lead-wise, then your team is out there kind of playing for nothing, and there's a lot of energy just being expended. So for me, obviously, I think I would have gotten him a lot sooner based on what I saw. The pitches in the dirt, he was pulling stuff out of the strike zone. He was frustrated. There's a lot of indicators that it wasn't his night.
Yeah, I always think you want to, in theory, you say, well, look, just, ride it out. You can do it. But in real time, real life, there's a guy taking a beating.
Yes.
And you're right, to Joe's point, your club is also deflating in front of your eyes. That's not good practice, right?
Yes, and it depends on where your team is at. The Dodgers are in the postseason. They're not worried about if that was a playoff game, I guarantee you he would have went and got him much faster.
Oh, yeah, look, Dave Roberts gets ripped all the time for going out and get guys too early. All right, Joe, we got to go. Great having you back on. We'll see you next week.
Well done, buddies. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.